the idea of Soulforce ones is just to have people on who live by that idea of what King said, you know, that have that presence. It really, to me, it boils down to like activism and authenticity, and really probably more so on the authenticity being true. And I think that's a large part what you talked about today. So it's fantastic.
I'm glad you didn't say that King part while we were talking. Okay, fantastic.
So say that. Why not?
I think that what he did to the history of Christianity and history of activism and the future of both is a crying shame. And I would love for the day when the Black church is capable of divorcing ourselves from the legacy of King. We would be a full participant member in the community if we could get out from under that umbrella and stop trying to live a theology that cannot be found in the history of Christianity or in the Bible.
Can you share more about that? I'm curious because I'm unfamiliar with that critique, and I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Nobody will say it because they'll be booted out of the whole tradition.
This in Scarface?
You know, and I am one of those people that is already booted out of the tradition, so might as well. So that nonviolent activism isn't Christian, and even King said it's not Christian, right? And I did a whole Bible study on this with the mighty Quinn. He got that from Buddhism, and that's fine. But I don't think that Christianity should be trying to aspire to something that is not Christian, right? And in order to do that, we have to rewrite the entire biblical text. We have to twist and manipulate the life of Jesus so that we can come up with some understanding of what it means to be nonviolent and from the underside. And not only, and the problem with that is that his nonviolence wasn't just nonviolence for the sake of nonviolence. It was nonviolent so that those who were protesting, those who had the right to say enough is enough, those who were already suffering could suffer more for the redemption of the people who were causing them to suffer, right? So there's this notion of redemptive suffering that twists what redemptive suffering is in the Bible and causes more pain, more suffering, more damage to those who are already the least of these. That's not what Jesus said, and that's not what Jesus did. And in a whole lot of ways, that's evil. And if we who call ourselves by Jesus's name, we who call ourselves followers of Christ, if we are to be who we say we are, our goal should be for redemptive suffering to not be a thing, and for definitely not to cause more harm than suffering itself caused, not to destroy oppression by liberating those who are oppressive and maintaining the pain for those who are being oppressed. So that's my theological critique of King. And I think his model of leadership, where he is out in front and all of the people who are doing the work are unheard and unseen. And whether it's because they pushed him out front or he jumped out front, it doesn't matter, because those who were doing the work are unheard and unseen. And what that does for the church is it promotes this concept of the celebrity leader, but the celebrity activist, right? And so we can't have people who are collaborating doing the work because we have people jumping up to be the next Martin Luther King. We have people jumping up to be the next voice that is heard. And so we have communities where there is work that needs to be done, but we can't all sit at the same table and can't come to an agreement about what needs to be done, because there's always someone who needs to be king, who needs to be out front. And if we could escape that tendency, escape that legacy, then we might actually be taken seriously by the community as churches, and we're not right now. And that's why you see the separation in my mind between Black Lives Matter and the Black church, is because in order to be a participant in Black Lives Matter, you have to be willing to allow the community to lead. And that means you cannot be the celebrity activist that King was.
That was exactly what I was going to ask about, because of Martin Luther King, right? We always ask, I always hear, right? Like, do we have a Martin Luther King of the moment, right? And the Black Lives Matter movement needs that leader. But that's the dope thing, if you think about it, is that, right, it was started by 3 Black queer women. And we know that, like, their names aren't known by most people,
right?
Perhaps, but we know their names, right, and the work that they're doing. But there still is, right, that discussion among folks of, you know, who's the leader? We need a leader.
A leader. And it needs to be a Black man who is straight, because those are the ones that are going to be followed. And so what that does is erase all of the work of these Black queer women. And it says their work is not important for us. And in order for us to take any movement for the sanctity of Black life seriously, it has to be headed by a straight man, a cis-het man who does really horrible things to the women around him, who erases the work of the people around him, who does not actually value the dignity of the human beings that are in his midst. And what the shame for me is that from the civil rights movement, there are so many different models of leadership that we could glorify, that we could incorporate within our activism, and we ignore those for the sake of King. And that's a post-1983 thing that nobody did before his birthday was on the calendar. We ignore all of these models of leadership from around the country, from Martin Luther King, who was really only popular in part of the country and despised in the rest of the country, even by Black people. But because he stood in Washington, D.C., and his birthday is celebrated, we ignore every possible model of leadership for activism that ever existed for his. And it's done us all a disservice.
We must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
Thanks for watching this short clip. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. To listen to the full episode, visit soulforceones.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Peace.